Commissioner Kenzer?
Here.
Commissioner Rock?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnel is absent. Commissioner Cron is going to be joining around 5.
All right, sounds good. Well, we'll start with first we got to, everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting. I know a couple of you weren't really on the previous meeting, so I don't know if we have to wait to have a different quorum to be able to approve those since they weren't really part of that meeting. We would have 3, I guess, how about we postpone those until Mr. Cron comes and joins, and then we can add those at the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move that to the next end. With that, we'll be able to move forward to the preliminary development plan and review. And we have Jeff Hatch here with Hatch Design Architect for application or for the property at 379 Elo Road.
He was invited. I'm not seeing him on the list here.
Not on the list. All right. How about Rich Paget with Maverick? Big off. Good.
I'm here. So it's a fun last name. It's Rich Piggott. You know, I was cursed with one of those names that have farm animals, so fortunately I was 135 pounds in high school, so you couldn't really make the pig noises with me.
All right, Rich, well, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Since we're waiting for Jeff, we'll go ahead and have you jump in. And Jeff, you ready? Did you hear me, Rich?
Oh, sorry. So
we're going to go ahead and let you start since it doesn't look like Jeff was here for the first one on the agenda, so we'll come back to him. If you're ready, we can go ahead and have you start.
Oh, okay. So yes, this is a kind of a restart for a proposed Maverick that we have on Colorado Street and North 3rd Street as you come into the wonderful town of McCall, Idaho. We had previously come in before with a different orientation for our building and fuel centers. And this is more in line with what was discussed from that meeting. And we're hoping this achieves what the vision McCall has for us. So what we've done is we've relocated our convenience store, which is pretty much the main feature of what we want to bring into the city of McCall, and located up along Colorado Street and North 3rd Street. With that, we'll do some enhanced landscaping along that corner. Some of the things that's not reflected so much in that site plan is we want to continue the street trees that are going up and down North 3rd Street. So we'll be adding the 5x5 iron grates and trees spaced on approximately like a 60, 70 foot on center. And we'll also enhance the landscaping kind of pavilion there in front of the corner of the store. We do have an entrance that we've added there on what would be the east side of the building. It's a minor access in the store, but it would be a functioning access. And we'd accentuate that with some planters or amenities that would help soften the elevation on that side. We relocated the fuel centers to the rear of the store. As you can see on that site plan, this was more in line with what we've discussed with the city of McCall. As you can see, we've got parking up against 3rd Street, which would be used as a secondary use of snow storage during the winter times. So we'll do as much mediation as we can to soften up that area between 3rd Street and those fuel pumps to kind of screen headlights and things of that nature with landscaping. Other than that, it's typically the same thing. We've come in with this new architecture for that building. It's more in line with what was discussed. We've lowered the tower portions of the building by about 7 feet from what was previously, and added some more, features along the street frontages. And I think, I'm not sure if Eric Grothy with Maverick is on the line too. I can't see on my side there, but he's the architect that's in-house with us. And so if you have questions regarding the architecture, we can direct those towards him as well.
I'm online.
Yep. So mostly we just are looking forward to coming into the city of McCall. And I think we've, as best we could with the conditional use, met the standards that McCall has for us, and hope that we can move forward with this in the city and go through neighborhood meeting and onward. But both Eric and I are available for questions. Anything you, any concerns or comments you have, help us, that'd be great.
All right. Commissioners, any questions? This is just a preliminary. So they'll be back with more of a full application at a future date. But if now's the time, if you have any questions or concerns about anything, to kind of bring it up to them.
Did I hear correctly that you said snow storage along the east property line, like along North 3rd Street?
Yeah, if you look along at that site plan, we're making accommodations in those parking stalls. They're just east of the four.
Oh, okay. So the parking stalls then go away in the wintertime.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
And then we also have it along the west property line.
I had a question, I think, for Eric. In a couple of the applications or a couple of the meetings in the past, I know it was brought up, some of the architectural, some of the design aesthetic part of it is any potential of any logs, some of the larger logs coming in some of the corners, breaking up some of just the brick, or any thought put back to that again?
Probably not. This is kind of the extent that we've been able to push our branding style through marketing. They've really shied away from the kind of the log look that we've had in other buildings because of the maintenance issues and just the result that we've gotten from them. So they're very hesitant to do any more of that kind of style.
That's what food's on Friday. Okay,
Okay.
you want to go over there?
Somebody's over top. Is the fuel pump count the same as it was in the prior
Yeah.
proposal? Okay.
Yeah, that has changed.
It's just reorganized.
Just basically, we kind of swapped the fuel canopy with the building. I believe we're four pumps on the commercial core to RV.
Yep.
Was there any discussion previously about the Colorado side, the back side of the building? Am I seeing that correctly, that the back side of the building is along Colorado Street?
That is correct.
Yes. I know as this gets closer, you'll have some more landscaping designs, but with that question along Colorado, that is pretty much of just a plain looking building along that side. Is you gonna wrap that, or that corner come around and with some trees and stuff to break that line up too?
That one, I don't think we've seen any landscape on it, but I know that it's been discussed in the past. I didn't see it shown on the site plan, but that's also going to be a snow removal area.
Ooh.
I'm guessing for the sidewalks of the street. But yeah, we still haven't finalized our renderings on that because we haven't seen a final landscape plan. But let's see, is it Paul sharing, or not Paul, is it Rich sharing your screen?
Nope, it's not me.
Okay.
I'm showing it here.
Okay, we did do some initial renderings with that, but again, until we see a real landscape plan, it's hard to say what is going to be there, but I think that's still got some flexibility if there is a preference by the city. Again, I think that intent of that is to be a snow removal area. It's kind of why we left it as a buffer.
Okay. And then were you looking also to do any fencing or what kind of buffering for the house that's basically right next door there on Colorado Street to the west?
Yeah, our design intent on that is to build a city-approved fence, which I believe city ordinance calls for a 6-foot fence, and we are certainly, which I think our whole west property gets a fence, which I believe will be vinyl or whatever the city approval is. We're gonna make that look as nice as possible with so it's consistent along with the property line.
And I know you'll,
I think
probably-
the fence that's already there is like an 8-foot fence. So that's something we're gonna have to work out so we get it so it looks the same all the way along it.
and I know, once again, this was in the previous application. Is it still the intent to kind of continue the sidewalk down and make the turn to go down Stibnite Street?
That I don't know. That I don't know if that's a rich. I know that's been. I don't know what discussions have been had with the adjacent property owner or where that ended up.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the, we'll look into that question, and we'll get back to you on that one. With the, with how the real estate deal has gone, we're no longer sharing that access there. So we'll look at what improvements we can to make the, as we go down North 3rd Street, correct? That's what the street you're referring to?
Yeah, to go
Yeah.
to the south. Again, it gives nice consistency for the city to have that full curb looking the same.
Yep.
Once, but we did have that bit of a roadblock with the property owner.
Yeah, but we can
Okay.
open up that discussion just to see what we can do there.
So you were looking to do a fence along that south boundary now, so it's no longer going to be a shared access to the hotel?
Correct. That's at this point, that's the direction we've had to go with the real estate deal. So it's just going to be currently our access into our site, and then they'd have to find an alternate access into that parcel, into their parcel there on the south.
Okay.
The amount of snow storage parking spaces that are going away with the snow storage in the winter, will those still meet the minimum parking requirements?
I believe that, yeah, it's pretty significantly over parking minimums at the or in the summertime. And
Yeah,
our code allows for up to a third of the required parking to be used as snow storage as well, so.
okay.
Does the sidewalk wrap around to the north? Is that going down Colorado Street too?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll go to the edge of our property.
Any other questions at this point from commissioners? Well, all right, I think that's everything that we have for now. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, not at this time, Eric. How about yourself?
I didn't know if you guys wanted to see, I know we talked about doing some renderings. We do have some preliminary ones. I don't know if that would help at this time. I'd certainly be happy to pass those along. Where we are now and kind of what it looks like.
I think we have some of the renderings.
Okay, good. Well, those are kind of perspective views. We have some actual like nicer renderings, I guess you could say, where we did them kind of in place on the corner. But we'll definitely have those more in a presentation view for the neighborhood meeting and the final planning commission meeting.
And you do have the mailing addresses now and not the street addresses for the neighborhood meeting, correct?
Yes, we are very, very effective.
I'm sure you did, but just in case.
Oh man, I'm into the check 3 times.
All right, perfect.
We're certainly not trying to skip by anything. So
Oh, no, it's easier.
not a mistake we want to make twice.
Any other questions? All right, well, Rich, we appreciate it. I look forward to seeing your application coming up in the future.
All right, that'll be great. Thanks everyone for taking your time on this beautiful Tuesday.
All right, now I think we'll go back to Elo Road. I think I saw Jeff sign up in there. So Jeff, or Jeff Hatch, are you there to start your application or preliminary application?
Yes, I am. Yep.
All right. Feel free to get started.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yeah. All right, Jeff, it should give you, there should be a little rectangle in the upper right with a arrow that will allow you to share your screen.
Okay. Does everybody see that?
Nope.
How about now?
This looks promising. There we go.
Okay. Planning Zone Commission, I wanted to thank you for your consideration of our plan unit development today. This is kind of our initial take to get feedback from you, take that back to the design team and owner to implement some of the feedback. So about a year and a half ago, we went through a fairly substantial land use map amendment process that ended up at the county. County wanted us to come back and discuss with the city for greater opportunities and options to integrate this project versus doing a large map amendment. And so working with Michelle and Brian, everybody in the planning department, were able to conclude that the best path forward would probably be to submit for a plan unit development. The proposed property location is right along Elo Road and the highway. We have an existing storage unit complex, some property that's proposed to be developed. North of us is a church, south of us is a church. We have some suburban residents to the east and some more industrial commercial uses to the west and to the north. The proposed development would be an expansion to the current storage unit complex. And then with that, there's a range of amenities that the city recommended that we incorporate into this project. One, it's part of a greenbelt system that they're wanting to integrate into this area for the master plan. So we would be extending that as a new greenbelt system from Sampson Trail all the way west to the highway. In addition, they wanted us to set up a commuter ride, bus drop-off, pickup circulation area with a bike repair station. And so, if you're riding your bike, you need to get some air or fix a tire, we have that ability. Or if you are commuting, you have a commuter ride location for Valley Ride as well. So the proposed storage facility tried to address really the program that we presented about a year ago. And so for the frontage, we would have more of a retail presence with a residence that's on site. And then the retail would be kind of a low sewer use commercial. So things that would be complementary to that area, but at this time, we would not be proposing restaurants or anything of that nature. So you can see there greenbelt that runs across there as well. And then instead of your more traditional kind of metal shed storage, we have a nice facade with some storefronts and keeping more of a retail presence. Also incorporated into this project is a satellite fire department, which we've been working with the McCall fire department and fire marshal on. And so this would house a couple fire engines in the case there's an emergency. They have more appropriate response time, being able to have this space out here without having to build a full-blown fire department. So that was part of the collaboration amenities that we wanted to provide as well. So a couple screenshots just of, there's a fairly substantial stretch of greenbelt that's being proposed. And so with that, we could look at standards for landscaping, how we want to address those, but for now, these are more just kind of conceptual. And then we have, we would anticipate having a shelter for the bus area, a repair area, something that could be used year round. And becomes kind of a nice feature for individuals because ultimately we want to promote kind of a mixed income, affordable housing component, and the commuter ride also kind of helps engage that and make it more convenient for people working downtown. Another screenshot of that bus station. So we feel this proposed project really creates a nice buffer from the more open space that we have to the south, really kind of trying to blend that line of where that urban fabric starts delineating for McCall, supporting open space, wildlife corridors, plan for businesses and light industrial, and support economic diversity, local jobs, locating industry, warehouse, logistics, manufacturing, close to the airport, close to the highway, for infrastructure and transportation uses. So I feel that these are some of the appropriate objectives with this project. And I will stand for any questions at this time.
Commissioners, any questions, thoughts, concerns? Jeff, I got, it's pretty clear what units you're gonna have, I believe, for storage. So pretty much buildings 2 through 8, as I'm looking at it, are for storage units. Is that correct? Or does building 9 also be storage units? I mean, excuse me, yeah, 9, I meant 2 through 9 are all storage units.
Correct. And then there would be a portion of 9 that has that satellite component for the fire department.
10, 11, 12 are storage, I think, too, maybe.
Well, they show more of commercial. So yeah, the question is 10, 11, 12, is that appears to be what you're doing, a retail mixture of whatever? Or what are those buildings?
So these buildings, due to the topography, are kind of dropped down. So the terrain here has landscape buffer proposed. And so these would be an enclosed storage that is for larger vehicles. This is kind of smaller indoor storage. And then for these angled parking, right now, this would be a 3-sided open air canopy. And so it's open to the interior of the facility, not the exterior. The retail component is up here along Elo Road, maintaining that retail sidewalk, retail storefront, and then we would have those components of an office with a kind of a large warehouse space. We're envisioning, at least at this time, some low plumbing use individuals, which it would be a case-by-case TI basis as these come online. But we would imagine, if you were a mechanical subcontractor who needs a little bit of street presence, but also a warehouse, if you were like a cell phone store that needs some inventory space, but also a little bit of retail component, those would be just a couple examples of what we would envision trying to get permitted for those spaces.
What are you proposing for your septic or sewer? I don't see any site space on there for septic drain fields. The sewer is quite a ways away. All the retail would be, I'm sure, required to have at least a bathroom. Maybe not a full bath, but what are your thoughts with that?
Well, we had a couple different thoughts, and part of this preemptive meeting is to discuss those. Our initial feasibility study from Payette Sewer District came back with the infrastructure costs of being right around $1 million to extend to this location. which, there's a couple different property owners in the area that may over time be able to get that to work to get sewer out here. In the interim, we would really just be proposing to phase that if need be, build out that structure, use them as storage. We would have the office space with its restroom that serves for the facility. But then as that plumbing comes to be available, we would just recommend a condition that we have to connect into it when available.
In the meantime, you just have a septic tank that you then get rid of a bunch of.
So, but the septic tank just for the office itself?
Yeah, so we would have a limited use based on what we can realistically construct on the site. If we can get 2, then that may provide us more flexibility. What we recently did in Central District Health is we worked with them for a large interpretive center, welcome center, amphitheater facility. And what they were able to achieve was one larger system that didn't have to get engineered. It's the largest gravity fed system that Central District Health would allow. They gave us an occupancy with that and said, you can occupy up to this amount. So in that case, we could say, we're required to connect to sewer. It's available, but in the meantime, we can occupy up to 500 occupants based on uses. And that would, again, give us the flexibility to build out some of this retail based on occupancies for TIs and see if we can optimize the entire building based on what the health department will allow, or if we're only able to build out half of those based on that occupancy. Part of it's just the businesses that are available and wanting to move in there, and part of it would be the capacity based on the soils type and what the health department would allow. That's definitely something that we could drill down more specifically for our actual application, so we could talk less hypothetically and more realistically about that. Would that be something the commission would like to hear about and have us research?
I would say yes.
Okay.
So, and let me just make sure I'm understanding, you would build the full building, you just wouldn't allow occupancy in the offices until you had service to them.
We would allow occupancy on the ones that we can justify based on tenant improvement permits.
Right.
The one that we would not, the rear portion of these, you have a retail component, and then you have basically like a large storage unit or warehouse space. So in the meantime, those could still be leased out as storage until those come online. They would just have a term in their conditions that says, when we tie a sewer, you may be subject to losing this for different business moving in.
On building 10, what's your anticipated height of that from ground level?
So from the interior ground level, based on our initial grading plan, which we have, we're at about 14 feet to the eave height, and then that slopes up to about 16 feet. Our road is approximately 12 to 13 feet above our finished grade. So right now we really just have like about a 4 or 5 foot high area there that's actually visible. And so right now we have kind of a similar motif proposed as we had on the front, where it would have kind of a mural with trees and then landscaping along there, but it's fairly low profile and not very visible.
So from that road level along Sampson Trail, you're saying it's only going to be about 4 feet up?
Correct.
And then slope up to about 6, 8 feet?
Yeah, approximately at this point.
And we do have a blank wall maybe we kind of deal with. I'm not sure on this. Let's see, how would that affect on this one, our blank wall? Because we're kind of,
Obviously, storage units are primarily walls on the
Yeah.
outside. But we would typically require additional landscaping, some facade changes, modulation, different materials, things like that to negate the inherent issue.
yeah, with the homes on that side of the street or across the street, that's what's gonna change their view, but if it's lower profile, it won't be as much as it would initially look like. It would be good to see some,
This is a rendering of what that kind of looks like. So, I mean, realistically, we tried to grade a swale to get a little bit of light back into there, but the actual, like if you're in a car, you're basically looking over this view. If you're at your house further back, this isn't going to obstruct your view at all.
I don't know if that road goes up that high, so if you had some
Well, this
actual
is
photos.
3D topography, so we can back check with our surveyor, but that was based on our surveying, so we can just confirm that.
Yeah, if you would, because it doesn't appear that it drops that much from just the initial drive-by of it, so maybe some actual things would look good to give us a little bit more detail on that, because it appears way deeper than what it actually seems to be on, for real.
Okay. So pay particular attention to that eastern facade, how that's gonna come together.
Yeah,
Is there a plan for the south side? Kind of a similar landscaping plan on the south? And what does that look like?
Currently, there's a bunch of trees along there, so we would just be proposing to enhance that with landscaping unless there was, the commission deemed it appropriate to do more.
What is to the south? Oh, there.
now Brian, one thing that wasn't sure, with this much square footage in retail, is there gonna be some sprinkler requirements?
That is something for the building department, but I would guess yes. Depending on what the specific use that is being intended to
Is that something you've checked with the department as far as sprinklering that? Because if you're gonna have that much building space and then potentially have the sewer, but if there's that much more somewhat habitable space, I don't know what your requirement would be for sprinkler. And would a well be suffice, or are we gonna need more of the city water out there,
You'll need a tank.
or a fire tank?
You'll need a tank. There's no way you'll get pressure out of a well
That's,
to
yeah,
charge those, yeah.
that's something you probably wanna check into.
Yeah, we can get that in writing. Our initial proposed conversation with building department is we would be providing firewalls that minimize our fire area and fire flow requirements. And then in the future, should we, get water services here, we could then have the opportunity to fire sprinkle and get a wider range of businesses. Businesses that we'd be proposing would be able to function with that firewall concept. So we'll just get something in writing from the building department that they agree with that statement.
And you'd also mentioned some multifamily residential. Where are you considering that?
So in building one, how these are set up is they're going to be engineered so that you can build a second floor within the cavity of the space, because it is a two-story space. In the meantime, it's going to be open to structure. When that infrastructure comes online, this has a second floor structural system that's built into it so that we can build out those living spaces above. And so the intent then is that you would have a garage space below that you can then access, and we would remodel these at this time to have those living components. We felt that at this time to try to do that would require a septic system beyond what we would be able to currently provide. It would also absolutely require fire sprinklers, which would be problematic for just the size of building to be able to achieve that. So that's something that we would be designing structurally to be able to achieve, but would be waiting till the infrastructure catches up. Location.
You might want to have a contingency plan as to which of the buildings you'll cannibalize for a leach system when you have to deal with sewer and residences. Because I don't see the room on that site to accomplish that, to be frank with you.
So we would envision that component, the living quarters component, comes online when sewer gets to this site.
Oh, sewer, not septic.
Correct. When
Sewer provided by the sewer district. Okay.
Yeah, when sewer services get here, we would have all the infrastructure ready to be able to develop that as a TI. In the meantime, we would be doing one large septic system that has a certain set occupancy, and we would work towards that occupancy with TIs in the meantime.
With no leach field, just pumping out of a tank.
We would need a leach field.
You have to have a leach field.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So that will restrict our occupancy for the time.
It might be helpful to have at least a rendition showing a version of it with housing, even though you're not looking to obviously do the housing right now, but if it's going to be something that's going to be included in any kind of decisions, it would be nice to see what ultimately that would look like.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Okay.
If it wasn't $1 million to get sewer here, we'd try to do it sooner.
Yeah. What was their thoughts, the sewer district's thoughts? Because I'm trying to think, is this in the sewer district or would you need to be annexed into the district as well?
I would probably need to get clarification from Dale on how that's interpreted at this location. I don't know if it's there.
I know they've been a little bit hesitant on doing any annexation. It's not impossible, but something obviously we would need to know in advance, or at least at your application, that that's a possibility that they would accept an annexation for this property.
Okay, so get that from Payette.
How far away is sewer right now?
Cron Lane, Cron and 55.
Correct.
So it's a ways.
Yeah,
What is the current zoning on this?
Residential estates. Storage is a conditional use in the use chart for that.
okay.
Any other questions at this point from commissioners? All right, Jeff, I appreciate it. I think that's all we have for now, unless you have anything more.
Just kind of recap. We will drill down and come up with a concept for what the septic would look like on the site, confirm the topography on the east, and for our formal submittal, have the eastern facade well defined. We'll follow up with the building department on the fire sprinkler requirements, follow up with Payette on just getting a writing that the sewer is either eligible for the site or we can get annexed. And then we will come up with a rendition of the housing component for our submittal as well. Is there anything else the commission would like to see? I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. We're excited about this opportunity and look forward to the formal submittal.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Yep, take care. Bye.
All right, we'll go over to Cloud9 events at 201 Rio Vista Boulevard. Susan, are you with us?
I am. Can you
Oh,
see
great.
me?
We can see you.
Hey, great. Thank you so much for having me. Just to introduce myself, since this is the first time I've ever been to any of these meetings and everybody else seems to have been through several. I'm a partner in a small family-owned business here called Evergreen Gems, and we are property managers for short and long-term rentals in Valley County. I'd like to just share with you that we recently purchased the old Northwest Passage Bed and Breakfast, and maybe we could pull up the plot. I'm sorry, I'm not as well versed at sharing, so maybe you have something there that you could share on your system. We don't need that. I can describe that to you as we're walking through, but this might be helpful. So what we would like to do here is we actually purchased this almost a year ago, and it was fully remodeled by the Peters, and there is an existing conditional use permit as a bed and breakfast. And we have been operating it that way as well as short-term rentals for people that like to have large family get-togethers and that type of thing. And it's gone very well so far. There is actually no any existing landscaping at all on this property at this point. And what we would actually like to do is basically extend the conditional use permit to enable us to house more people. The property actually has 9 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms and can easily handle about 26 people in beds currently. And we would like to be able to provide the city and Valley County with a reasonably priced mid-level place to get married and have events and family reunions and that type of thing. So we've done an initial stab at the landscape design to be able to make it a desirable place for that. And the location, I don't know whether everybody's familiar with the location of this, but this property is on Rio Vista Boulevard, and to our west, you'll find there are relatively new storage units. And to the south, you'll find that we kind of back up to the industrial park area. So, and this is on I think just under 5 acres, like 4.5 or 4 3/4 acres, something like that. There are some smaller dwelling units across the street from us, and I think there are some new 1/4 acre plot homes that are going to be going in over there. And on the other side of Boydston, there are some large townhome units and that type of thing. So we think that this is kind of a nice segue of being able to offer something like this as you move further down the street into a residential area. We also do have we've noticed, some road noise and that type of thing in this property. So if you take a look at this design, we want to add in a nice water feature. We are looking to essentially not remove any trees at all, but add and enhance the overall area. And what we're really excited about is the opportunity to provide more business for Stacy Cakes and, being able to bring in transportation as needed with customers coming in for wedding events. Let's see, what else am I thinking about there? We would being able to hire wedding planners and photographers. So using a lot of the local businesses to enable them to grow as well. So this kind of gives you a picture of what we're thinking about right now. We've tried to address everything that you require in permit standards. And we've also tried to address the issues in the comprehensive plan around character and economy and connections. And I already talked a little bit about the economy. So we've looked at being able to have a place to bring bikes in and use public transport or purchase transport to be able to drop people off, to be able to walk in. We've added in parking areas, which would all be non-paved, so gravel. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've considered snow storage off of the road. There's already some existing storage for that, and we would not be changing that much. We would definitely, we've already done a survey of the property, but we would also look at, for the next stage of this, being able to provide the grading that's required to make sure that we handle runoff properly and everything for whatever changes we make in the landscape design. We do not really plan to change the structure of the home at this point, except that if you look up in the upper left quadrant here, you'll see like what's a little blue section that looks like a storage shed. That actually is a carport that we are looking at trying to get a permit to install at this point, because there is no parking available outside of the elements. And then if you look down towards the center of this unit, there's a tent there, and that would not be a permanent structure. That would only be raised, and used in the summer. Are there any questions?
The application mentioned dry camping.
Yeah, so if you look at the bottom of this picture right here, we have some parking for people to be able to bring in an RV and maybe back it in, because what we found is a lot of times when people want to have, family get-togethers and weddings, it's nice to be able to have a property where they can gather. And sometimes people drive in from Seattle and want a place to be able to park their RV as they're coming into one of these reunions. So we're looking at providing some spaces for that. And then plenty of parking, and also additional space to be able to back in porta potty units, if for an event, and address any of those kinds of issues. And then also I know trash would be something that we'd have to address for that. And we're looking at that up off of the road as well. So
The camping is just within the parking area. It's just these larger, am I understanding that?
Yeah, at this point right now, you'll notice off on the right that this is just all open land. And eventually, we may want to look at putting in a road that goes back there where you could kind of tuck yourself back in those trees and everything. But that, maybe would be something that we would look at in the future. We have the ability I think we're ranked right now as R1 here with a long-term proposal for R2 or R4 on the comprehensive plan. And we do have sewer currently hooked up and adequate for the property as it stands today, as well as water. It's all city works because this is actually in the city limits. We have the ability to add in more hookups based off of having a little over 4 acres if we need it, but that would be a long-term thing. So,
Not sure what code has for camping and dry camping. I mean, we'd almost have to get a conditional use permit for an RV park.
Yeah, it would be considered an RV park, which is a conditional use in that zone. So they would just incorporate that in with the rest of their conditional use permit.
So it'd be this just one conditional use permit for multiple.
Yeah, for multiple condition uses, yeah.
that would be a lot easier because the current cup that we do have is cup number, it's 18-11, and it was approved on October 25th, 2018, and that was for the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And so it'd just be nice to be able to expand the whole thing so that we don't have a whole bunch of different pieces and parts. But I don't know, you have to tell me what's the best way to approach that.
Sounds like probably the conditional use process. I noticed you do have some buffering around the event area.
Uh-huh.
We might want to see some more along that east boundary, just to buffer that next property to the east possibly, or at least see a landscaping
Absolutely.
plan to see kind of more of what's there.
Okay, you can see some of the faded out circles actually show existing trees and that type
Yeah.
of thing. And there isn't actually anything on that property at this point in time. It's just it's a 2-acre strip that goes along the side there. But we actually plan to do even more planting than what you see here. And there will be some more on that east side because we actually have an existing shed that I kind of want to block off. And so we'll add some more in there, which would help the neighbor view in the long run. And then also we plan to do some more, I guess, snow and salt-friendly kinds of shrubbery along the roadway that can handle absorption of the runoff, but also provide us a little bit more of a buffer of what we see across the street. And then also where you see this drive at the bottom left-hand quadrant here, you'll see the drive coming in. We wanted a prettier approach up to the front of the house. And we are planning to put in some more trees and everything down in that lower quadrant to help buffer the street in the corner down there. So we'd be happy to put anything you guys want. This is just our first attempt at trying to come up with a basic plan.
Now, one thing we might consider, and we got some new commissioners here, but the property to the west of you that does have the storage units where they're positioned to the south of that property, they were required to have residential on the north end of that property. So where your new entrance is there on that south, well, I guess it'd be the northwest corner.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if we would need any buffering there or not, just because that is going to be some type of residential on that top piece, but it's just something, I guess, for you to be aware of at this point.
Yeah, I think right now, actually adjacent to that drive that you see there, if you just go over to the next lot, there's a drive that enters into the storage units right now. I think that the building for the residential, I think it's multifamily or something that they're looking at on the corner is a bit further up at this point.
It'd be right in that general area. But again, there's no plans or anything for it at this point to go by, but just, I don't see that road probably wouldn't change there, so.
Just the
We actually really want to.
clarification that the north arrow on their landscape plan is incorrect and the street, Rio Vista is the north side of their landscape plan, just so that everybody is tracking.
You can see with those, where the condos or the storage units, they're not built there, but they're platted. That top like 1 acre pieces was set aside for residential.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's on the Rio Vista and Boydson, right?
Yes.
Kind of in that corner.
Yeah, that corner right there, yes. So just something to be aware of. I don't know if it'd be any factor or anything, but just, I guess, something to be aware of.
Well, we certainly will be putting in and enhancing the landscape quite a bit. And we'd be delighted to do anything else that you need along that line because it's in the plan.
Yeah. And your bathroom facilities, how many bathrooms do you, I know you got in the book here, I know you got quite a few.
We have 10 bathrooms.
How many of those are public bathrooms and how many of those are like in the rooms?
They are, there's 2 that are kind of more public bathrooms. So on the lower level, there is a full bath. And then on the main level, there is a half bath that are not connected to any bedrooms. All of the top level rooms essentially have at least a toilet and a sink in them, if not a shower as well. So every room is en suite with at least a half a bath. And then if you go back to this plan, which you're showing again right now, in the parking area, if you kind of swoop along the lower quadrant here and then come up around, that you'll see kind of a little section that sticks out into the area where we haven't developed anything at all. And that's probably where we would park some kind of like the Honey Dippers or something like that for an event as, yeah, that's it, as needed, to make sure that we're managing the number of people that come for an event, because we don't need to have those bathrooms all the time, you know, only when there's an event there.
Okay.
I think this property actually, it also has a well, and it actually had, I think, a septic at some point in time, but we have no idea where that is on the property. Because this property's, I think this home was moved here in the 70s.
It's on water and sewer now, though?
It is. As a matter of fact, what's really interesting is if you look in the lower right-hand quadrant of this picture, you see that hatched line off on kind of heading from the west south. That is the sewer line.
Yeah.
So are there other things that you would like to know about, and or specific areas I should pay special attention to for the formal application? And I also wanted to let you know that we've already done the mailing, and we are planning to have the neighborhood meeting in about a week and a half.
With your mailing, and only because our previous application had issues with it, I hope you use their actually mailing address and not anybody's street address.
Yes, we did, because when we first bought this property, we needed to send out a mailing to let everybody know that we were going to operate as not only a bed and breakfast, but as a short-term rental as well. Okay. So we've done it before, and all those people plus a few more are getting, and I think we sent it to Meredith as well as Brian, so that they would get a copy of it and attend if they'd like to.
All right, well, I'm thinking, you know, we've got a good start here, maybe some of the landscaping. I think some definite designations of where the porta potties are going to be, and the amount anticipated, just so we can kind of see where they are as people driving by. I mean, it looked like they'll be pretty buffered, but just it would be good to get a feel of that, just because there's not the bathroom servicing for the house itself wouldn't handle the amount of people.
That's right.
Probably clearly, obviously, go through the CUP for the RV requirements.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if we have anything for dry camping, because I don't think there's anything separate with that.
It would be determined if our RV parking requires septic connection. Which,
yeah, we don't. We know that that's bigger project than what we want to involve with. So, and that would be hookups. You know, so we're not actually providing any hookups. They just are in to stay for a couple of days, and they're self-contained. So it's just essentially that we wanted to provide a place for them to park if they want to. And then also in the wintertime, we have people that would like to stay here that have snowmobile trailers. And so what's really nice is we provide a place where we can go in and move the snow around and give them an opportunity to make a turnaround and a parking area in the wintertime.
So is the intention for parking, or is the intention for people to actually stay in their RVs when they're parked there?
Well, I would believe that if they brought RVs up, they would probably want to stay there especially for a wedding with, extended family, because there's only so much room in the building to be able to stay. I don't want to overpack the building. And then they'll be looking at other facilities like Shore Lodge and other Airbnbs and that type of thing when they bring up, when a family comes up and their friends for a wedding.
And Brian, with this, since they're doing, additional commercial uses, I know we didn't have it in the past because it was already being used as a bed and breakfast this was prior to you being here. But this is expanding on that. Is there anything that's been discussed as far as some type of pathway coming down along Boydston, even though I guess it's really not connecting anywhere, but,
Wait, Boydston's a
or
problem.
I'm not Boydston, I'm sorry, Rio Vista, Rio Vista.
I don't believe there's, let me,
It looks like there's a pathway to the bus stop.
yeah, they're proposing that in a little bus area, on there. The transportation master plan doesn't have anything on Rio Vista as far as bike facilities. It may be something that's worth considering connecting into the proposed bike lanes and things along.
Might be something to look at because I'm sure when that corner gets
Yeah,
developed, there's gonna be some requirement. So I mean, I wouldn't see any kind of sidewalk by any means, but
yeah,
maybe a consideration in the path or, I don't know, just something to at least discuss.
yeah.
Okay, so is there something that you need me to do here? I'm just a little confused because we have shown a little place for people to ride bikes in here and park when they come to events if they'd like to, because a lot of people like to do that. As a matter of fact, Brian and Meredith came out to meet us a few weeks ago and they rode bikes. So it would have been nice to have a place for them.
This is more just a discussion of potentially some type of pathway along Rio Vista.
Okay,
Not necessarily required, but just maybe a discussion with staff about that.
all right, okay. So it's not an action item for me.
Discussion with staff.
We'll follow up.
Commissioners, any other questions? All right, Susan, I think that's all we have for you tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for your feedback.
All right, now we'll go to the pre-application for the conditional use permit for 1022 Bitterroot Drive. Is Brent or Annie Peterson online?
Yeah, I'm Brent. I'm here.
Okay, great. Brent, feel free to let us know what your thoughts are.
Great, thank you. So we purchased in August the property at 1022 Bitterroot. It is a larger home. It had been a short-term vacation rental, and we're not sure if it's been just 1 year or 3 or 4 or 5 years, how long that's been the case. And we have, again, it's a larger home. Our plan at this juncture, unless the planning and zoning asks to make changes, is to not change any of the outward structures. We have almost an acre of property. We do have adequate, strong parking, and so the request is to move from 19 to 28. We do have 8 sleeping areas and 8 bathrooms. 6 are full, and there is adequate parking both in the front circle drive and in the back. In the last year and a half, the back has been recently paved all the way to the back of the property to be able to account for the 8 vehicles. I think that the things for us that we're paying attention to is we want to make sure we have adequate garbage. It's never a nuisance to the neighbors. And so we'll make sure that we have the right amount of cans and that there isn't any trash outside in the wrong places. The other issue obviously is noise. You will note where the main gathering place outside actually faces up to that back property. It's a nice quiet area. We obviously want to be very careful with noise, and so we have signs posted quiet hours. We also have noise meters that are planted throughout the property inside and out. This is probably managed by Kelly Hill and Dunright Management. And so we actively want to make sure that our guests any nuisance is mitigated in any way, that it's very low impact on neighbors. And so that's a big deal for them as well. There is no plan for any corporate events. The big idea and dream is to simply have families gather and perhaps, some staffs or retreats or churches have small retreats there, but no commercial events for sure. We do have adequate snow storage that will push towards the back, and I apologize I didn't provide a map of that on this pre-approval, but that will be pushed back towards the back of the property on a landing area where there's plenty of snow storage feet. So that's essentially the plan. And there is no plans for any changes of the property or planning. Again, the setback is nice, and we want to do our best to be good neighbors along the way. And so that's kind of our plan. And I'm very open to any questions and comments and things you have at this time or things you'd like to see as we consider our formal application.
Well, Brent, I'm going to jump in here. This is Commissioner Lyons. I actually am very, very familiar with the property. I sold it to the owners you bought it from previously. I'm a real estate agent, so I
Okay,
have very in-depth knowledge of this property.
great.
It was only rented for a short period of time for the previous original owners. They did have an issue with it not being maintained well by that particular management company, which I'm glad you're not using. I won't say the name. But the biggest concern at that time was the neighbor to the west.
Is
Because
that
there's a
Mrs.
pretty good.
Stravinsky, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, we have been in contact with her, had several meetings with her, and we are going to work very hard with my associate Kelly Hill to, in fact, Candace and I have been texting. I want to make sure that all concerns are raised, that again, this is not a hindrance or bothering to her. And I will just say, I have heard that the previous management company was not very engaged. We are committed. I'm not sure if you know Kelly Hill or Dunright Management. We are very committed to being great neighbors, and Ms. Stravinsky will take special care of, and she has my email and texting as well as Kelly's. And but we want to work with her about some possible adjustments and changes we have to really, as she is mostly a full-time resident, I believe.
Yes,
we want to make sure that she's cared for as much as possible.
Because that driveway, as you know, comes in along that west boundary and basically goes right by her house. So I don't know, it might be good to see maybe, I know there's pretty decent tree buffering, but it kind of drops in there.
Okay.
And if you're gonna have that much more parking in the rear, might consider some additional buffering for her. Maybe my thought would be having some good discussion with her and seeing what she would feel good with and kind of work with staff on that.
Yeah, it's a great comment. To be honest, we don't think there's probably enough spaces towards the front of the house. They won't be using to access the back, but that's a great conversation we can have with both her to see what she would feel most comfortable with buffering. Again, there is room back there, but as far as there's a nice circle drive and driving the side there. So we'll talk to her about that, about what some buffering that we could do to mitigate any car noise that might occur as if we put any vehicles back there.
Okay. Now, Brian, we were talking on some code amendments regarding some of the larger units and requirements that had any penalties and stuff. Does that come into play, or it's going to be evolved based on renewals at that time, correct? We were talking about the housing stuff as far as vacation rentals, and that if there were certain violations or amount of violations, they could use or lose their permit.
Yeah, so there are special standards in City Code 313.036 for short-term rentals of 20 plus occupants. There's standards in there as well as 313 something further down that if there are repeated violations of that, they would be subject to potential revocation of their business license and or conditional use permits. And
okay, so it does apply to the conditional use permit as well. I figured it did, but I just want to make sure Brent understood that as well.
Yes,
as far as
thank you.
Violations.
And we'd want to work and have we'll connect to our neighbors. And again, in talking to some of them, they have shared some of their concerns with the previous management company. And so we want to mitigate all the things they've raised are very reasonable and right concerns. I guess they had a vehicle that parked on the street, and I think they had some concerns over garbage. So those are things that we will be vigilant to both solve, and that if any problem would erupt, we want to solve that right away, quickly. And so neighbors, this is not a hassle or nuisance to them, but we would, want to solve any issues quickly and efficiently with them.
I guess one thing to consider, I've done other large rental homes that I have gone to myself, and they they specifically limit the amount of cars. Now, I know you have two different garages here. There's a lot of parking, but you're having a lot of people too. So I would ask that hopefully you would encourage when they're making reservations to try to limit the cars and maybe come up with a certain limit, even though you have, I know there's a lot of space,
Yeah.
but if you put 20 cars in here, you're gonna have issues. That front circular driveway is not gonna handle it because there's gonna be people wanting in and out and then extra backing up but something to consider.
Yeah, thank you. So I believe my colleague Kelly Hill is on the call. And sorry to call you out, Kelly, but I think we talked about potentially having a limit of 8 vehicles or 9 vehicles. Kelly, sorry to call you out, but that's a question kind of for you. Is that what we had talked about?
Yes, it is. I don't know if you can hear me, but yes, that is exactly it. We allow 1 car per bedroom. And we will make sure that is either 1 car or a trailer. So it's not both. So there will not be any more than 8 vehicles, including trailers, at the property at any given time.
Okay, great, Kelly. Appreciate that. Commissioners, any other questions, concerns for Brent? All right, Brent, I think that's all we have unless there's anything more you'd like to add.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So the one action item I heard you say is I'll consult with our neighbor about potential buffering on that side for any traffic and see a plan that works for her as well. And I sure appreciate your time today and thanks for this consideration.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we have yet another pre-plan application for the corner of northwest corner of Boydston and Pinetail. Jeff Likes with ALC Architecture. Jeff, are you with us?
I'm here.
Great. Well, if you'd like to start and let us know what your thoughts are or plans.
Yeah. There we go. Can you go down? There we go. Thank you for getting there. So we're just here to talk a little bit about this site. You're all probably aware, northeast corner of Boydston and Pinedale. Currently zoned R8. We understand that there's a double density option with this if we do some deed restrictions on here. And so we want to discuss that with you and maybe give us a little bit of your insights on that. Right now, what we want to do is there's 10 townhomes on the west end of the site, and there's a 2-story, 8 units per building there on the right. So there'll be 16 2-bedroom apartment type, multifamily units there. So for a total of 26 units. Currently on an R8, we're just over an acre. We're allowed about 16 units is what we're allowed. So that's why we'd like to discuss that. What that deed restriction means, how does it apply here? We just want to get a good concept of a good idea of what that really means. I understand there's about a 35-foot tall minimum or maximum height out here. We'll be under that. Right now, we don't have any elevation, any drawing. We're just stating that we're going to be under that. We do have our plan for snow storage. I know that's a big deal up there. We do have lots of snow storage. I don't know if you can, is there a way to just, well, you probably can't see my cursor, but yeah, kind of in the middle there between everything, we've got quite a bit of snow. Yep, there you go. Thank you there. And then the one on the other side there of that parking lot. Yes, thank you there. And then I've also got snow storage down at the lower corner of that right build. Yep, and there too. Yep, and there too. So we've kind of planned for quite a bit of snow storage in there, which obviously we'll need. We have talked with, I know there's a parks feature with the multifamily project. We have talked with Kurt Wolf in Parks. I don't know if he's in this meeting or not. But if he's not, he has mentioned that it's probably not feasible on this small of a lot. And so he has mentioned that there's a possibility of a contribution to an additional park somewhere else in site or somewhere else in the city that the city could decide on where to put that. So we would be up for that option as well, is contributing whatever that might be into some city fund to put elsewhere. And then the last thing I want to bring up is sewer. We've spoken to them, and we understand that there is anything over our allowed density would require a model to show that we could, still meet the capacity of that, and that would definitely be on our list of things to do. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be glad to stand for questions.
What's the parcel size on this?
Yeah, what was your acreage there, Jeff?
It's hold on.
1.77.
1.77. Thanks, Nick. And I've also got Nick on the line as well with us. It's 1.77 acres.
What would that be based on the R8?
About 14 units, I think, if you do 1.7 times 8.
Yeah, 14.
13.6, so about 14 units.
So with the bonus density, it's for every unit that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but every unit that you deed restrict and through the requirements for local housing, you get one extra bonus unit, and I believe that unit still has to be deed restricted, or?
So you get your base zone, those 14 units, those can be market rate. Anything above that, up to 28 units, the additional 14, those extra 14 would have to be deed.
So any of the bonus units have to be deed restricted, basically?
Yep.
Okay, so, yeah, so basically any of the bonus density you get would need to be deed restricted.
Okay, so at this point, just bear with me. At this point, since we have 26 units, we'd be talking 12 of those units would be deed restricted.
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't know how much you've talked with the sewer district, but right now, depending on what zone or basin you're in, they may only allow currently one hookup until they get that, as you were talking about, the plan or something set up. So have you talked with them in more detail on that?
I talked to Dale about a month ago, and he was saying they were expecting it this fall. I guess we're in the zone where it's getting improved. I don't know if it's the lift station, but he was thinking fall or spring the last we spoke.
Okay, definitely something to be aware of. Now I know.
Well, with that, is it okay if we were to phase this project, do one hookup now, which should possibly be one of those buildings, or how we'd make it happen? Would that be an issue to phase a project until we get our sewer figured out?
I guess that would be more of, would the building permits be issued without a sewer connection issue? And I don't know.
By one sewer hookup, it's typically one residential dwelling unit, not an apartment building.
Okay, that'll work. Okay.
So, go ahead, sorry, before I change.
I still can't remember how far we changed the scenic route, because I know it used to come down Boydston, but did we get rid of this? This is no longer, okay, so I thought we got rid of that. Okay, so we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was our understanding as well, is that it got taken out of this particular area.
So the way the units are set up, these are like townhomes that could be individually owned, and these are apartment buildings?
Correct. So we'd have two types on here. Yes, the townhomes on the west would be individually owned. The other ones would be apartments, 2 buildings of apartments.
Is it all open parking, or is there any covered parking? And what do you have for storage? If you're gonna have people living there year-round, full-time, we'd probably like to see some storage requirements.
We can certainly look at that. Yeah, we don't have any storage at this point. We can certainly look at it. And we have talked about covered storage as well. Oh, sorry, covered parking as well. We just don't have it on here yet.
Okay, yeah, the storage is big because anybody that lives here has got toys, and otherwise there's gonna be strewn out everywhere. So I know in some of the projects in the past, there was some storage as part of those for especially for the rentals.
Okay.
And with this as far as landscaping, there's really nothing on your other side. I guess you'll be working with staff on a landscaping design.
Yeah, right now we don't show any. I mean, we have quite a bit of offset for landscaping. There's nothing on here yet. I mean, you can see our whole setbacks there would be landscaped. At least on Pinedale and Boydston. And work with staff if we have landscaping on the neighboring property sides.
All right.
Am I also seeing in the townhomes parking only within like the garage type? It looks like there's no room for driveways.
That's correct. That is correct. There's 2 indoor parking only, 2 spots inside their garage on those townhomes.
They're 2-car garages.
They're 2-car garages, correct.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I think that's all we have, Jeff. We certainly would encourage you to really consider the deed restricted housing. As you know, it's a desperate need in the area, so hopefully you'll go along that path.
Okay, no, we appreciate it. That's what we were we just want to get a little better idea of what that was, so.
Yep. I do have one quick question for you guys. With the deed restricted housing, does the city still have funds for the grants?
It is subject to available funding. We have a lot of people interested in it. So it kind of depends on when you come through in coordination with our annual budgeting process, and if we'll have funding available.
Got it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. I think that's the most pre-apps I've seen on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Full meeting.
I can move on to our consent agenda. Looks like we just have one item on there. So I'm just going to check, does the commissioners have any questions on that item? We'll leave that in and I'm open for a motion.
Roger that. I move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Oh, we got a new. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. There is no old business, so we'll move on to the new business. CUP 2102 and Design Review 2132, 218 Park, East Park, the new library. Dennis, are you with us?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, great. I appreciate you waiting. Now we got to you, so feel free to show us what you got.
Okay. All right, we're gonna, if we could share our screen, we've put together a presentation that more or less follows along the original submission. I should also note that we have Meg Lojek, the library director, virtually attending just across the way from you all in her office. And I have Joe Miller here assisting me, and we're in Denver today. So thank you for this opportunity to present. In essence, what we would like today is approval on the design of the McCall Public Library expansion, which is in essence a 12,000 square foot addition on 2 stories to the existing library, which is a little over 4,000 square feet. And so what we will do is kind of walk through the design in terms of the site plan, landscape plan, and then talk a little bit about the interiors and then focus predominantly on the exteriors. So Joel, if you want to go to the next slide here. We're having a little lag here. Must be that commute between here and McCall. Every time you think you have technology figured out, there's a challenge. All right. So as you know, the existing library was built, I believe, in the late 70s. We're proposing an addition to the north side of it, up to the property line, in essence, along Park Street. This will require the demolition of the annex building, which is where McCall Parks Department is currently housed. And so that project will be relocated to the museum park. And that property has actually started the site clearing and things of that sort. So that project is started. We also are obviously right adjacent to the City Hall, and the drive lane between the City Hall and the library has been closed and moved to the west side of the City Hall. So in essence, we'll be removing the existing parking lot and all improvements to the north of the library and to the east of the existing library. This project will also complete the landscape and streetscape design along the south curb line of Park Street that was not installed because of the proposed construction of the library. So moving along, and Joel, jump in when I miss something, but this is showing that we are providing 32 parking spaces with this project. So we're creating parking on the east side of the library with 2 accessible parking spaces. And then we're creating parking on the back side of the library and the south side between the bike path and the existing library with 2 accessible spaces. And we're proposing 2 electrical vehicle ready sites for charging. We're also in the future, we'll be having a storage shed for the parks and for the recreation department. The recreation department will be moving into the existing library renovation when we get to that. This project will also do some improvements to the drive area between the City Hall and the library. Will be landscaping and concrete pavers. We do note that in our application, there is a deficiency noted of bicycle parking, and we will be providing proposed parking. Some of the spaces, I think it was 16 spaces that were requested, and we're looking at putting the spaces south of the existing library and near the entrance to the library so that we have the connectivity to the bike path to the south. We also will have a series of concrete walks that will allow for access around the building. And we will have, as it's shown here in the center, a future children's discovery garden, but we'll put in landscaping, some sod and a few trees in that area. And then we also will have landscaping improvements along the drainage swale to the southeast and to the east of the parking lot. That'll be a native seed and with some landscaping as shown on the plan here. And as I mentioned, the street trees that were not installed last summer in the brick paver area and the grading that were part of the downtown streetscape program will be installed consistent with the work that has been done in other portions of the downtown area. So this shows the footprint of the library and the new addition and the existing library. And I think that's what we wanted to get accomplished on this. So I should also say that we have Greg Tankersley, our civil engineer from Crestline, should be in attendance here. If there are any questions about drainage or any of the civil engineering issues associated with the project. So this is giving a first floor of a library. It's raised up about 30 inches from the sidewalk along Park Street, and that was done deliberately so we could try and match the elevation of the existing library, which is another 9 or so inches taller than our first floor of our library. So I won't go through the details of the floor plan, but the first floor is in essence public services, library offices, a teen space, and a children's library. We've tried to create as much storefront windows opening onto Park Street so pedestrians as they walk along the street will be interested in looking into the library, and it will really be operating much like a retail operation would, with lots of activity on the inside, being able to be seen by people passing by. So the entry will be up a series of steps, coming into a vestibule, and then entering into the library. The existing library will be repurposed into a large community room that will seat a little less than 900, or excuse me, 100 people, 900, more like 90 to 100 people, with a raised dais that will be accommodating perhaps a planning and zoning commission meeting or a city council meeting, et cetera, but it'd also be for community purposes, for meetings of all sorts. We also will have a area for the recreation department to be loaning out items that they would typically loan out, like snowshoes or backpacks or things of that sort. Will be opening off the library. And then we also have a smaller meeting room that will be used for community purposes as well, in that area where the cursor is. And then we have a series of restrooms along the rear side, the south side of the existing library, and some storage areas. So that will be all part of the library. So we see the phasing being that we would build the new building, the new addition. The library would operate temporarily out of their existing situation, but they would have an entry off the west side facing City Hall that eventually would be an entry into the library for after-hour use, to the community room, et cetera. So, and then after the new addition is built, we would then come back and renovate the interior of the existing library as the library would move into their new space. The second floor of the library then is the adult collection. In the very northwest corner, we have an outdoor balcony that would be looking down towards the lake. We have an Idaho room, which will be a special collection and an enclosed space. We have study rooms. We have a fireplace for gathering and public computers, and an office space for the library director, along with restrooms, et cetera. So we see this upper floor being more of a quieter area with lots of windows looking out to the north and lots of access to daylight from the south side, because we'll be above the height of the existing library. We do think that we'll have a few mechanical equipment shown on the roof of the existing library. They will be screened from public view. And we can talk about that in greater detail later. So that's the essence of the functional operations of the library. we start looking at the exterior of the building, and we have submitted some samples of the materiality, but the top elevation is the north elevation of the new addition fronting onto Park Street. We're looking at brick masonry piers, a dark masonry brick with metal siding above it. And we're looking at cementitious hardy panels, if you will, between the windows, a storefront, aluminum storefront along that. And then we have a projecting overhang that with some wood timbers that would be supporting the overhang, and what we're calling some outriggers that diagonally go up to support those beams. That palette of material continues around the building, and so the next elevation down shows the south elevation where the metal paneling comes around. You can also see the proposed rooftop mechanical equipment screen out of metal panels showing there. We're looking at smaller windows on the south side, but also operable windows to get natural ventilation into some of the smaller spaces there. And then on the lower portion on the right, we have the children's library, the outdoor discovery area with a storefront opening out from the children's area. And we also are showing the dark sky compliant light fixtures that will be mounted on the side of the building. So rendered elevations on the left is the Park Street, the north elevation, and we'll get into the exact coloration of the materials here in a moment. Then on the lower right is a elevation of the children's garden in the yellow, the children's library. And then we also are putting a large opening from the community room out to this space that will also be storefront. So a pair of doors with side lights coming out of that building. And we're going to reclad the existing library with cementitious panels or hardy panels that are flat and would be separated with a reveal joint. And then on the east and the west elevations, we have, again, a similar pattern of materials where the upper floor is the metal panels. Here you can see the roof projections on the upper level and the use of the cementitious panels and the window patterns. So this upper elevation is facing the parking lot that's east of the library. And there's a fire stair exit there on the right-hand corner there. And then you can also catch the east elevation of the existing library that would be covered with cementitious panels and that large opening coming out of the community meeting room. On the lower elevation is the west elevation of the building facing City Hall. And so we have the outdoor balcony off the Idaho room showing there with a metal screen, a guardrail, and then provides a covered porch, if you will, for the entry to the library, which will have that brick will continue on under that balcony. And then we have the storefront that's showing the entry vestibule, and then the cementitious panels continue around the building and onto this south and east side of the existing library. The entry that will be the after-hour entry into the building is shown there, and that pair of double doors. That's directly opposite of the City Hall entry, and there's a possible sign location that would show that the community hall entrance would be there for after-hour purposes, etc. On the elevations there on the lower left-hand corner, you can see looking from the northeast, looking to the southwest, you can see the Park Street elevation with the overhang of the roof and the outriggers that are supporting the beams. And then on the right hand elevation, you can see the, if we were standing on the front steps of the City Hall looking to at the existing library west wall, as well as the new addition. So you can see the continuity of the buildings being tied together, and the second floor being of a different material, a different color, to sort of just break down the scale and give the building some character of breaking up that massing a bit. We also can show with you the material samples. I think they're best shown probably on this next page that I don't believe was in your package. But we're using wood aluminum clad windows on the upper floor and a storefront, which would be a dark anodized color. The metal panels on the upper floor are the image in the center top, which is what we're calling an articulated panel that has a variation of its articulation. So there's when you see these ribs, they're not at an evenly spaced. They vary, again, to give it a little more elegance and difference of pattern. On the right, on the upper portion is the fiber cement panel that I'm sure you're familiar with, and would be painted colors, which we have those painted colors shown on the lower right-hand corner. And then the actual color of the articulated metal panel is shown here in this lower center. And then, as I mentioned, the brick will be a utility size brick that is 4 by 12 inch, 4 inch by 12 inch module. So it's a little bit larger than the standard 3 5/8 by 8 inch brick. And so we've done that because of the scale of the building and trying to allow for it to be have this civic quality to it, but also working with a fixed budget. So the next slides, I think, show the existing library and how the new building would be superimposed. In yellow that you see there screened on, in essence, is where the new building goes. So the one in the upper right-hand corner is showing the north elevation of the existing library, where the parking is, and how the building fit on the site. The two-story building will fit on the site there. And then the the image on the left, on the upper left, is showing the annex building as it exists today, but with the proposed library project is built, it would be slightly lower than what is existing there today. And then the two images on the bottom show from essentially the bike path looking to the north and how the two-story addition fits in front of the existing library. I think we've also included some photometrics as required of the parking lot lighting that we believe meets the requirements of the municipal code, as well as we use the streetscape parking photometrics to show how that works as well. So this is derived from the entire downtown streetscape plan and showing how our lighting is consistent with what has been already installed. And I think that's pretty much our presentation for this evening. I believe that again, looking at the comments there from the staff, there are certain logistical comments of doing, there's a lot line that needs to be amended and a few other minor details. I believe that the bicycle parking is the one deficiency that was cited on the staff review. And we've worked very carefully and closely with the library building committee and with the city staff, with Kurt Wolf as the Parks and Rec Director Nathan Stewart as the Public Works Director, and with Meg as the Library Director. And we have also consulted with Andy Laidlaw, who was a volunteer to the library, who has helped us ensure that the building really feels as though it belongs in McCall and is a part of McCall. And I believe that Andy wrote a letter of support as well in the package. So with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Brian, and appreciate the opportunity to present this evening.
All right. Have a staff report, or do we have?
Yeah. As they kind of got into this application, is for the library expansion project. It is a conditional use permit as well as a design review. We discovered in the process of doing this that libraries are not listed in the use chart for civic zones, so that was a surprise. That's why it is a conditional use permit application as well. As far as the design architecture of the building, it's generally exactly what we want to see downtown. It's got good use materials, a lot of big street-facing windows right up at pedestrian height and level. You can see inside, see a lot of activity, generate a lot of interest and, just perception of safety for pedestrians. It includes an overhang over the sidewalk, which is a unique new feature to the city. The materials, especially I think once you get the interior architecture with a lot of exposed wood and mass timber and things like that, the colors and all that will complement pretty well. As you said, the one thing we noticed was there was no bike parking identified on any of the site plans or landscaping plans. So my recommendation was for 16 short-term and 5 long-term spaces. We'll work with them to identify those. We talked with Kurt a little bit after the meeting packet went out. He suggested adding on to condition number 4 in the conditions of approval, which is regarding the phasing plan for the landscaping. Add on a sentence that the phasing plan shall incorporate temporary revegetation into the unfinished areas to prevent dust, mud, weeds, etc. So when you guys go to make your motion, please include that as well. I can read that for you later on as well if you need. And yeah, the rest of the motion or conditions of approval, as I said, are generally housekeeping. So that'll stand for any questions.
All right, well, I think this is a public hearing, so we'll do the public hearing, then we'll have discussion and can have some questions with the applicant and Brian. So this is a public hearing, so we'll open up the public hearing. We do not have anybody here in the room with us, so if there's anybody online that would like to make a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes. You may be muted, so you need to do *6, and sometimes it takes 15-20 seconds to get you activated. So if there is anybody on the phone or online that would like to make a public comment, please state your name and address for our records, and you may speak. Again, it's *6 if you want to unmute yourself. Going once, going twice. All right, with no public comment being heard, we will close the public comment. And commissioners, if you have questions, comments, concerns, we can ask the applicant and or Brian.
I was curious about the surfacing between the 2 parking lots. There's kind of a hatch, but I couldn't tell what it's listed as storage. I was just curious what the final surfacing of it will be. On the site plan.
Right.
That one right there.
I think the best exhibit would be the landscaping plan for that. It is.
Amendment.
Oh, okay, so
There's a swale in that zone for snow storage, and that will be reseeded with a native plant mixture. When you get closer to the southern parking lot, on the east side of your screen, you can see the topography kind of comes back up to grade. And in the future, that may be a place where we may try to have a little more of a connection to the bike path from the children's area. But at the time now, the bike path connection is showing the farthest east on your plan. Sorry, west on your plan.
So right now, it's revegetated with native seed. And again, we're looking at snow storage, being able to push the snow from both parking lots in that direction.
Okay.
Looking in the interior, I think I see one spot. Is there an elevator?
Yes, there is a what we're calling a limited use, limited access elevator.
Is that square box right there? Okay.
Yes, and it's
Okay.
consistent with ADA standards.
Okay, good. Because didn't see anything labeled and I was hoping that was it, but just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
And with that kind of same idea of access, you have the stairs coming up from the front or north facing off to the side there. Is that just gonna be paved access right in there where it says book drop right into the vestibule coming off to the
Yes, we
west
have,
side there?
if we go back, yeah, if we go back to the site plan, you can see that we have a sloping walk that comes off in essence in front of Legion Hall and kind of meanders over to that grade and continues up. So that would be the accessible route. That concrete walk there that's on the diagonal, if you will.
Okay.
That's shown.
Very good.
As well as access from the accessible spaces to the south of the library, the parking spaces. So that would be a continuous walk as well to the front entrance to the library that would be accessible. And even within the library, we have a bit of a grade change between the new addition and the existing library. And there's an internal ramp that's 6 feet long. It's a 6-inch rise, I think you're.
It's double that.
It's about 12 inches rather. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or?
So I'm curious about the number of restrooms for the community room of 100 people. Is that, it looks like there's 3 in there?
Yeah, and so we have sized the restrooms to meet the requirements of the building code within the building itself. We have restrooms in the new library addition as well. And so we believe that we're compliant with the necessary building codes, the uniform plumbing code.
So where's the third bathroom? Upstairs maybe?
Well, there's
We
3
have
right
two
together.
restrooms- We have 2 restrooms on the second floor.
Right at
Oh,
the,
I see him. I see him. Okay.
And then we also have a restroom off the children's area.
Okay.
So 6 total.
Well,
there's 2
And
upstairs.
there's one in the staff workroom as well, so there's 7 total in the building. And they're all gender neutral.
have a question about the parking. How many spots are you adding to what's currently there?
So what current existing conditions?
20 square feet.
How many parking spots?
Parking spot. Well, I guess today, I forget exactly how many spaces are in front of the library. I think it's less than 6, it could be 7.
Yeah.
So we looked at the building as a standalone building. We were removing those spaces up front. Plus we have parallel parking along Park Street that does not exist. But off-site, we're providing the 32 spaces that you see in the pochade space on the site plan that you're looking at there. Right now, people using the library park behind the library in an unimproved lot, as well as the Civic Campus lot that is a gravel parking lot now behind City Hall and the Transit Center. And the hope is that at some point that entire area will be improved. Not by this project, but by the city.
Well, also currently other businesses and people are using these current parking spots for their businesses as part of like the overflow or part of what we've talked about, like May Marine and other places have been using some of these parking areas. And I just want to make sure that you're not removing more spots.
Well, right now so the parking that's shown east of the library does not exist today because that's where the Parks Department building and their work area is. And so the spaces that may be used by others are those spaces behind the library and those that would be right in front of the front door of the current library. And again, some of those spaces are replaced by parallel parking on the street along the south curb line of Park Street. And we are just talking with the city and the library about how those parking spaces may be managed. And we think that there may be a sign or a couple of parking spaces that would be short-term, 10 minutes or so, for an individual who was coming in to return a book or to pick something up, not planning to have an extended time in the library or the downtown area.
Any other questions?
Well,
Yes, we're open for a motion. If anybody has any.
sure. Okay, I move that we approve CUP 2102 and design review 2132 to include the staged landscape proposal by Mr. Kurt Wolf.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? You want a roll call or just voice vote?
We'll do a roll call.
All right.
Commissioner Clements?
Yes.
Commissioner Nemec?
Yes.
Commissioner Kinzer?
Yes.
Commissioner Rock?
Yes.
Commissioner Cron?
Yes.
Chairman Lyons?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion has been approved. Thank you very much, Dennis. Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the building.
Thank you. We look forward to it as well.
Be open this spring, right?
Finance fast track.
Yeah. All right, now we'll move on to the rezone for the Mill Park condominiums. Joel Drulard, are you with us?
Not sure if he is planning on attending tonight. It's a very routine matter.
Yeah.
I told him he probably didn't need to.
You want to do a staff report?
Yeah, so the last month's agenda included a consent item for a subdivision plat modification for the Mill Park condos common area. They recently purchased I want to say 300 square foot parcel that includes a sewer easement and the public pathway easement into Brown Park. In the process of reviewing that, we discovered that it currently does not have a zone attached to it. How that came to be is a mystery, but all city land or all lands within the city and area of impact shall be zoned for code. And so that's why we are here.
All right, pretty basic. Any questions for Brian before we go to public comment? All right, this is a public hearing, so we'll open up for public comment. Again, hit *6 if you have any, if you want to make a comment. So we'll open the public hearing.
Hi, this is Pete Blanton. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Pete, go ahead.
Hi, I'm a part-time resident in McCall, and I live around the corner from that parcel. If I'm looking at the plat map correctly, the parcel that they purchased that is currently unzoned, I don't know how to describe it, but it's, I guess the pathway into Brown Park sits on top of that parcel. Is that right?
Yep. Pete, for our records, could I get your name or your address as well?
Yeah, 1305 Greystone.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm sorry, 1357 Greystone. I'm thinking of my address. Address 1357 Greystone. There, McCall. Anyway.
Pete, I'm on with you. This is Matt Gonring, so you go first.
Hey, Matt.
Okay.
So back to my question, I just wanted to understand the parcel that is being considered for zoning, not rezoning, but actual zoning, is that block that sits under the I guess the sidewalk entryway into Brown Park. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And it appears it's just a small section of that, correct?
Yeah.
Just a piece of it that's highlighted in your package.
Just this little yellow piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, Pete, if you, well, I guess it's not time to answer that.
None of us, we all had to dial in. We didn't actually have a link to the Zoom.
Pete, you want to go first? Or you want to chime in together here?
No, go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Thanks, Pete. Pete and I are colleagues in the Greystone complex. My wife and I are homeowners. My name's Matt Gonring. We're homeowners at the 1383 Greystone. Pete and I are both representing the Greystone Homeowners Association, which is essentially 30 units at Mill Road and Hemlock Streets. It overlooks the Brown Park and 1410 Mill Road, which is the former Brundage building that Dave Carey is currently in the midst of renovating. Our interest here is really to protect the community investment and use for Brown Park. And Mill Park has recently acquired some 60-odd feet of Payette Lake frontage. And in all the filings, frankly, they've been completely unclear about the intentions about this acquisition. As you may know, that the public beach is basically contiguous from the marina to the end of Brown Park, except for one area, which is the Mill Park dock. Frankly, and I think Pete would echo my sentiment that the Mill Park has not been as good a neighbor to many of us, and they've been kind of proprietary about the land, the dock, and the beach. And we've had, frankly, a couple, run-ins along the way. And then the 2021 construction enabled them to exclusively occupy the beach day in and day out and night. And there have been, sometimes as much as 6 to 8 boats on that dock. So they've had the opportunity during this summer, due to the construction on Brown Park, to basically have exclusive access to the beach. So really what we're looking for here is some level of transparency on their plans with the acquisition of this 60 feet. And frankly, we think maybe denying the rezoning until this is clear would be a good idea. We want to protect the park use. And, you know, it's not clear to us what a rezone might enable for them. You know, and we don't want them kind of cordoning off 60 feet of beach frontage. It would be not conducive to kind of a public beach park. And we don't want to encourage, you know, a continuing, somewhat contentious situation. So, you know, multiple of our Greystone colleagues have had these issues. And, you know, I don't believe that they've done their appropriate due diligence. There's been no public meetings. There's been no conversation. And it's completely unclear as to what their intentions are post-acquisition of this land.
All right, thank you, Matt. I think we'll have some answers for you here just a little bit once we close the public hearing. So is there anybody else that would like to make some public comment? Again, hit *6 if you'd like to unmute yourself and make public comment. We'll give it a couple more seconds here. All right, with that, we will close the public hearing and we'll have a little discussion.
Commissioner Lyons, can I interrupt for a second?
Who is this?
This is Meredith.
Meredith, yes.
Can I just have the first speaker during the public hearing repeat his first and last name for me so I can get it on the record?
Right.
I think it was
Pete,
Pete.
Yes, Pete. Pete, are you still there with us?
Yeah, it's Pete. Pete Blanton, Blanton.
Thank you. Carry on.
All right. Well, Brian, I think to address, since the applicant's not here, if you can address, because I see what the zoning is going to be, and if you could explain the zoning to the callers and.
Yeah, so the zoning is proposed to be civic, which is intended to be a public access sort of a zone. There is a 20-foot public access easement across this property, so really no matter what the condo association's intentions are, that is what is going to occur, is public access on and through this parcel. Whether it is part of their condo association or whether it's rezoned or not. If you guys feel compelled, you may consider just adding a condition of approval to the rezone that states public access shall not be just interrupted, period. Like I said, there is an existing access easement. It's not changing. Nothing's happening with that, but just as a gentle reminder to the applicant, that may be prudent.
Is the rest of this zoned? The rest of the parcel?
Yeah, everything else around it.
Zoned civic?
The condo association is residential 8, I believe. But the front part and the parcel to the south is also civic.
But you can have, so like this whole thing is the parcel, right? But just this little portion is zoned?
It would remain separate parcels, but yes, you can have different zones on a single parcel.
Okay.
So it would be our understanding by enabling the public access not to be interrupted, that they could not construct or cordon off a sector adjacent to their current dock that would limit use of other of the public park for others. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's our principal concern. Pete, do you have anything else beyond that?
We have closed the public comment section. So the commissioners are in deliberation right now, and we'll be making.
One additional point to note that I made the determination based on routine in nature, the waive the neighborhood meeting requirement, which is why they did not get notice other than the public hearing mailings. So.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that public, that the reason it was waived, there was a waiving from the public notice section. You know, regarding the docks, there's certain requirements that the state has on the docks. That's a state thing, but it does go through city land to get to the dock, but that's a separate thing with the state. It is, they have a private dock permit. We cannot really guide the docks. as far as the dock itself. That's a state thing. After the high water mark is state land as well. So
Is the portion of this in the easement, this portion that is the pedestrian bicycle tricycle maintenance easement, instrument number, blah, 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 on the parcel next to the yellow, is it zoned civic?
Yes.
Okay.
So effectively, this is just administrative.
Yeah, it's a cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
any other questions or concerns? Are you open for a motion?
Sure. You want to do it? You want me to do it?
I should practice.
You want to practice?
I'll practice.
Okay, there you go.
So I make a motion to approve the zoning. Not rezoning, right? Zoning application?
Zone map amendment, I believe.
Zone map amendment. I make a movement to approve the zone map amendment.
Second.
Discussion?
Oh,
Are you adding that condition?
Yeah, to
That's,
not,
was just gonna mention
to
that.
not impede or
Hinder public.
hinder public access.
with the condition to not impede or hinder public access
To the park
to the park.
To the park. There you go.
or the lake.
What is it? It's the park or the lake? It's one and the same.
Through to the lake?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, okay. So if you want to state it all over again.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the zone map amendment with the condition not to hinder public access to the park or the lake.
That's good.
Alright. And we already had a second?
Second.
You want a voice count or
Oh, we can just.
roll call? Call a voice count. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passed. All right. Now, move on to annexation 21-01. John Selfridge and Nancy Smith, are you with us?
Yes, hi, this is John.
Hi, John. If you'd like to present what you have, that'd be great.
Yeah, my wife and I own 1919 and 1917 Pilgrim Cove, which are two adjacent lots. We are interested in annexing in order to have access to the city water, in order to eventually, build a home there. There's some paperwork in the packet that states that because we're within 300 feet of the city, we actually have to use city water, and to do that, we need to be annexed.
All right, staff report.
This one is also kind of a unusual but rather routine matter. Like you said, it is 1919, 1917 Pilgrim Cove. There are two roughly quarter-acre parcels that are adjacent to city limits. Current municipal boundary runs centerline of Pilgrim Cove. In order to get water service to these parcels, to develop them, they need to be annexed into the city in order to be in the city water system. The Seaway subdivision that runs through there is actually one of the few spots that is somehow grandfathered in. It is outside city limits, but in the water system. There's already a water stub to this parcel. It is just basically a formality to get it into the city so they can get on the water system.
All right, this is a public hearing, so we'll open it this time to a public hearing. If there's anybody that'd like to comment, please remember to have your name and address. And also, if you're online and you're muted, please hit *6 and give it a few seconds to unmute yourself.
This is Meredith. We don't have any guests.
Yeah, there's nobody else.
There's no guests. Okay, well, we're not seeing that on the screen. So with that, I will close the public comment and, or public hearing, excuse me. I'll close the public hearing and we have discussion. I'm assuming you're already in the sewer district, sewer capacity right there.
That's
There's
what I
no issue with
understand.
that. Yeah, I would think, Ryan, I'm sure, I don't have that map in here, but
That is what I've been told.
yeah, I'm sure that's all sewer district. I should do the map here, but I think there's, any questions or concerns, applicant for the city?
Boilerplate.
Yep. All right, I'd be open for a motion.
More practice.
I can do it.
All righty.
It might not be pretty yet. All right. So I make a motion to approve the annexation. Do I have to state?
2101.
Okay. Annexation 2101.
Yep. Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. All again?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, we're gonna go backwards a little bit now that we have Johanna on the phone. We're gonna go back and approve the minutes now that we have a quorum. Because we have the four of us from here, so let's vote on that. So,
Meredith pointed out on the chat that Johanna did not attend the last meeting. So,
I did not.
legal counsel, Matt Johnson, is filling in for Bill Punkney this week, that may have some input on how we should manage this. I don't believe Scott is going to be able to attend the next meeting either, so I don't think there is going to be a quorum of people who were here.
so would the three, how many did we have at that last meeting? It was only
four,
wasn't it?
We barely had a quorum.
Yeah.
There was only four of us.
Yeah.
So the three of us would be a quorum from that last meeting. Does that work?
Let's see what Matt has to say.
Your bylaws and constitutes a quorum.
So, Chairman, Commissioners, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a city bylaw that requires a commissioner to have been present to vote on the minutes?
That's a good question for you.
I don't, there usually is not.
Yeah, I don't believe there is.
I know as a matter of practice, oftentimes commissioners or council members who were not present sort of don't want to vote, but there's actually no requirement that they do not vote. So just because somebody was absent, as long as they're comfortable with how the minutes are presented, trusting the others, they can vote, and that satisfies your quorum problems.
Okay, so with that would still be just Johanna, not their new members, because they weren't members of that at that time, but we would have a quorum with Johanna here.
Correct. You have a quorum currently. They can vote on those minutes as an action,
Okay,
even if
so
they
we'll
weren't
just-
at that meeting of the minutes were from.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, with that said, I move that we approve the minutes from our prior P&Z meeting in September.
I hear a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed. All right, and we're down to other and signs.
Other and signs?
Well, the other section and signs under signs.
Commission
Thank you.
seat, so that Tony can.
Oh, you want to do that? All right, oh, that's right, we'd have that. So we'll skip over the signs and we have a vacant seat. Which seat is this one? This is a.
For Commissioner Clemence's.
Oh, that's right. It's gonna be done so quick. That's right.
Yeah.
We've got one more, but we're.
Okay.
6 years, man.
That's not enough.
Sure
All right.
is.
So we'll move to that. I believe last I checked, we only had one application. So that application is Tony Moss. So Tony, if you want to introduce yourself and let us know why you want to be on the commission.
Well,
to see you guys, and I was watching the meeting here, and they take a long time, and I thought to myself, do you really want to be on this commission or not? But yeah, it looks like a great group, and you make a lot of important decisions for the city of McCall, and given that, yes, I do want to be there. I'm in the impact area. My address is 4076 Warren Wagon Road, and I've been out here for about 20 years, living full-time in McCall. I like the place, and I've been landowners up here for a good 45 years. My family has. Originally, I'm from Payette, and worked in a food processing business down there for most of my life. And it was a family-owned business. My great-great-grandfather started it back in the early 1900s, and it evolved into my grandfather running it, and my dad did, and then I did for 20 years. Retired now. Still got a couple of consulting contracts that I'm finishing up for a couple small businesses down in the valley, but got to the point where this position came up. I saw it in the Star News, and I just thought this would be a nice start for me. I did run for county commissioner a while back here. You might recognize my face and my name. Didn't win, but learned a lot about the county of Valley County, and learned a lot about the city of McCall and the way the things worked here. And it was a lot of fun for me, and it was very educational. I think I could provide a lot of insight to help the P&Z commissioners and try to get as much knowledge as I can. I'm not really versed on the terminology and how the things in zoning work, but I know a little bit about it from a standpoint that it was an issue when I was running for county commissioner a number of times, although it was during the pandemic, and a lot of the short meetings, door-to-door meetings especially, and just regular meetings didn't happen because of that. And so moving on from that, I think McCall's got some really tough issues, I think, with the sewer system and the water system. And when I was in Payette, we worked very closely with that system, which is similar in size, I think, given the population and the construction that I've seen as far as the sewer plant, with one of our engineers, because we were the biggest customer that they had, and we changed a lot of things around, and we got them back on track, which they had not planned for a lot of capital expenditures that sewage and water systems take, but they basically had spent a lot of the money that it should have gone to there. We didn't pony up any money, but we put them back on track with a lot of sophisticated help from a good engineer that we had at the cannery we had down there. So that with the capital improvements are tough, and it's something that the city council is going to be taking care of, hopefully in the future. But that is an issue. And then I think about small businesses in McCall, and I see that they're in some cases doing really well, in other cases not doing so well. Could somewhat a function of the pandemic, but I think that we need to have a strong voice as far as what we can improve, such as the Maverick gas station out there, and what we want to improve. I think because of the fact that I have lived here long enough that I really enjoy this area, and I think that it has good direction to continue on along those lines, and some of the rules and regulations that P&Z has put forth, helps that whole situation. Well, I look at the night sky and the noise situation in McCall. I live on the lake, and most days the noise and the music and the wakeboard boats are kind of tough to take. I wouldn't even, if I didn't live on the lake, I'd still be interested in those major issues, because I think we have a good, strong community here, and I think it has to be reinforced by good quality decisions from a group like yours, and that is my direction. That's about it. I just I guess I don't have anything as far as what you talked about today. It was interesting listening to how it goes, and how you people make decisions on who's going to be able to expand a business, or who's going to be able to build a business up here. It's very interesting to me. I don't claim to know a lot about it, but I did get a certain amount of education through running for commissioner here a while back. Given that, I'm here for questions. If you got any for me, throw them out.
All right, thank you, Tony. Commissioners, have any questions for Tony? Well, I can let you know that I've known Tony for quite a few years. I believe, Tony, you applied to be on the commission before when we had multiple people and we just didn't have enough spots. One thing I do know, as he mentioned, he does live on the lake, and I think this is probably one of the first meetings in at least a couple of years that we didn't have a lake application.
Right.
So it's been at least 2 years that we haven't had at least one on our agenda to do that. So I think he would be a valuable asset with that, obviously being on the lake and experiencing everything there is to do with that. So I do believe that'd be of value. And so I can see him being a useful addition to our board. It's kind of my thoughts, because I've known him for quite a while, and he does have the experience in McCall and has seen different cycles of busy and crazy and slow and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely seen all that. That's for sure. Anything else? I'm here for anything you want to ask.
I don't have anything.
Nothing to make.
Given that, I appreciate you guys. It would be a good thing for me if I was able to be a part of your group, I think.
You said he was full-time, right?
Yeah, you're here full-time, Tony. Yeah, I'm sure he is.
And around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we had our discussion. I'm open for a motion.
More practice.
Does anybody else want to try?
I'll give it a go next month.
Next month.
Okay. I move that this goes to city council, correct? County commissioners.
Yeah, because he's in county
Oh.
impact. So he's in an impact zone. So within the commission, because we take care of the impact zone as well, or we make motions or suggestions to the county commissioner. So Tony would be filling a spot in the impact zone.
Right. So I move that we recommend to Valley County Commissioners the appointment of Tony Moss to the McCall P&Z Impact Commissioner's position.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve in second. I'm guessing we've already had discussion. All good with that. Would be a roll call vote.
Yeah. Commissioner Rock,
Agreed.
Commissioner Kinzer,
Agreed.
Commissioner Nemec,
Yes.
Commissioner Clements,
Yes.
Commissioner Cron,
Yes.
Chairman Lance.
Yes. All right, Tony, it's been approved. Congratulations. It'll be probably noticed by the staff because it will go in front of the commissioners for their final blessing. And so staff, I hope will contact you and let you know when that date would be.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody. Nice to see all of you.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
Johnny.
All right, now the last thing is signs.
Signs.
So, Mrs. Meredith, are you guiding us through the signs?
So we have 3 signs this month. We have North Fork Coffee Roasters moving from their previous location on Colorado Street to just behind us at City Hall down on Lenora, next to the pet supply store. They are in a 2-tenant building, so they've worked with the building owner to make sure that there's going to be equal square footage of signage for both tenants, even though the other space is not yet filled, and they're below the allowable signage limit. They'll be utilizing the same old sign from the previous location, which I think they're getting up in the coming days. There's no new lighting proposed. And as much as I would like to say color to it, I think that that would be changing the branding of North Fork a little bit too much since they already exist. The next one, or one of the next ones, McCall Dental Care, they're just replacing a previous sign that they didn't actually have entitlement for. So this version of the sign is going to give them entitlement for that one. It's mounted under the eaves of the roof and there's no lighting proposed for it. So snowfall an icicle shouldn't be of concern. And then it's mounted with pretty serious hardware up there, so it probably won't fall. I think it would be a miracle if it fell in a bad way.
Probably won't fall.
And then the last one is the relocation of Peter's Dentistry from that 3-story building on 3rd Street and Park to the old yoga building in the Village Center on the corner of 3rd and Dinehard. And it's just using the same exact style of signage, same exact size of signage as the previous tenants of the building, and refitting it to be the dentistry area. And that's all. No new lighting on that one either.
Was the North Fork one just the one sign? Are they moving the
No,
other coffee sign?
it's two. It's two. So they have one on the fascia of the building, and then one that's going to be that gray one that used to be freestanding on Colorado Street. They're repurposing it to be projecting from the north face of the building. So off that little stubby bit. And they have instruction to have it at least 8 feet above the public right of way so that it only smacks the tallest people in the world in the head.
Okay.
I take issue with that. It needs to be at least 6, 7. I'll have to file a complaint.
You can jump. Give it a high five.
I don't need to jump. Duck.
All right, that looks like takes care of everything on our agenda. If there's anything else from staff, I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Yay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion adjourned. It's approved and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.